We hope you missed us because we missed you. It's the 2008 NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series from the Daytona 500.
It's a long way to the top. If you want to rock and roll, you want to rock and roll.
Good evening, race fans. I'm your host, Caden Reif, and welcome back to another installment of the NASCAR Coca-Cola Cup Series. It's the 2008 season. We're ready to get kicked off here tonight. It's Daytona, the 50th annual, a very special edition of this year's Daytona 500, as we get set for some plate track action and a start to a brand new Cup season. It's an exciting day here in motorsports today as we get you to the racetrack right away for your starting lineup analysis and many more here from Daytona as Ryan Newman in the 38 car puts his Yates Racing Machine up on the front row. He'll start in first in the 38, and Tony Stewart will start from the second spot in the number 42 car. Juan Pablo Montoya, the 84 Dual 1 winner. He's going to start P3, and Ricky Hendrick, first event for his new team at Penske Racing. He's in the 02 car in the fourth position. One Dual number 2, he'll start in fourth. Matt Kenseth in the 17 will be in the fifth position, and Casey Atwood will start in sixth. Jeremy Mayfield will be in the seventh position, and Kyle Busch starting in eighth next to his teammate. Robbie Gordon will be in the ninth spot in the 31. Bobby Labonte starts this race in P10. Kevin Harvick will be in 11th, and Andrew Ranger in 12th. John Andretti, the 21 car, will start from 13th. Morgan Shepherd in the 89 in P14. 15th goes to Casey Mears in the 99 for Roush Racing, and Elliott Sadler will start in 16th spot. Kurt Busch will be in P17 with Todd Cleaver in the 98, a rookie, in 18th. Scott Wimmer with Hendrick in the 5, he'll be in 19th. And John Wood rounds out the top 20 for BAM Racing. Clint Boyer will be 21st in the number 4. Denny Hamlin making some part-time starts for Hendrick this year. He'll be in 22nd in the 25. Shane Meal, another rookie, P23. And Jimmy Johnson will be in 24th. 25th place, that is going to be Jeff Burton in the 8 with Jeff Gordon to his outside in 26th. Boris Said in the 06 car will be 27th, and Casey Kane in 28th. 29th, that'll be Scott Riggs, and 30th goes to Scott Steckley with his new team, a rookie in the Cup Series, in the 23. JJ Yaley will be in 31st. Greg Biffle will start this race in the 32nd position. David Runeman will be in the 28 this year. He's 33rd. Brad Keselowski will start in the 34th position. Jamie Murray will be in 35th. Todd Bodine in the 36th position for Jasper. Carl Edwards starts 37th. Jason Leffler will be in the 38th spot alongside him. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will be in 39th. Marcos Ambrose in 40th, and rounding out the field in the back row, DJ Kennington, your 2007 Cup champion, will be 41st, and Brad Coleman in the 42nd position for Roush Racing. A 42-car field, as always. It's 100 laps here from Daytona as we take you to the outlap, the parade lap, and most importantly, trackside for the most famous words in motorsports, the command here from the 2008 Daytona 500.
Drivers, start your engines!
Field roars to life as we get set to go. It's a long one here today as Ryan Newman in the 38 is going to lead everybody off in the first position with Tony Stewart to his outside. A lot of thrills, not a lot of spills in the duels over the course of Speed Weeks this week. A lot of cleanliness, not a lot of wrecks. And of course, Ryan Newman going to be on pole. Both of our front row qualifiers from Daytona qualifying remain on the front row here today as Newman and Stewart are going to start in that first position and the second spot. Of course, DJ Kennington in that 81 car, your defending Cup Series champion. He is going to be starting all the way back in the 41st position. Had a rough go around in the duels. Pit cycles at the end of those races did not work out for him. He starts a long way down the order in 41st. A couple of other drivers worth noting. Last year's Daytona 500 champion Kurt Busch starting in that 17th position. And of course, Morgan Shepherd in that 89 car talked about how good of a speed weeks he's been having. He's in the 14th spot for the 89. Pit stops are going to be of the utmost importance here tonight. The Daytona 500, 100 laps long here tonight. A lot of pit cycles on the way. Expecting 2 of them at least over the course of this event. So it's going to be keeping it clean. And of course, the number one thing in any super speedway race, keeping the race car steady. It's going to be a matter of staying out of accidents. Everybody in this field looking to try and keep the nose clean. We usually expect 1 or 2 of those big wrecks over the course of the race. And with such a long event, you can expect to see some thrills and spills here tonight. Ryan Newman in the 38 with his first career Daytona 500 pole is going to lead the field off of turn 4 this time. Starting in that first position, Tony Stewart, 2007 Cup Championship runner-up, 2-time Cup Series title winner on the outside position. Newman and Stewart on the front row. It's Bass Pro and Cabela's up front. Green flag is in the air. The 2008 season is underway as Newman leads us off towards turn number 1. We saw a couple of times over the course of Speed Weeks, the first couple races of this weekend, the pole sitter for their respective event did not end up leading the opening lap of the race. We saw it in the Bud Shootout. We saw it in duel number 1. Did not see that in duel number 2. The pole sitter did lead the opening lap, and it's going to be a 2-2 split over the course of this weekend as Ryan Newman, the pole sitter here in the 2008 Daytona 500, leads the field on the opening lap. Jeremy Mayfield has jumped into the second position. Field stringing out, mostly double file up front as the 38 and 44 sit first and second off into turn number 3. And that signature plate shuffle continues behind the race leader Newman as he's looking to lead the first 2 laps in a row. Robbie Gordon, the 31 car, already announced he'll be a free agent after the 2008 season. He's going to follow through into the second position, but he's not going to find a way underneath Ryan Newman, so a couple of laps led in a row for the 38 off of the pole here tonight. But Kevin Harvick, with help from his teammate, is going to be the first to take that opportunity on the bottom. Bobby Labonte, the 18, follows him through on the low side. And it's our first lead change in tonight's race as the 2 Gibbs cars take first and second, looking like Bobby's going to try to move to the bottom side underneath of Harvick for the lead. Labonte, a Daytona 500 winner himself, won a Daytona 500 a couple of years ago from the very last starting spot in the field. As we've seen at this race, your starting spot doesn't matter a whole lot unless you're trying to stay away from the early wrecks. And of course, 3 wide and even 4 wide usually tends to be the catalyst for early accidents at this racetrack. And that is exactly what's going to be the case as they're wrecking behind. 3 Penske cars were involved in it as Kane, Bodine, and Keselowski are involved in it. Jimmy Johnson, the 48. Kennington may have gotten a piece of it as well. And we are under caution for the first time here in Daytona early on just lap number 4. Just as we talked about 3 and potentially 4 wide being an issue at this racetrack over the course of this event, exactly that took place. It appeared to be David Rudiman in the 28 who got the wall coming out of the tri-oval. We've seen a lot of that in 3 wide over the course of races at this facility. And today is no different as Rudiman gets the fence and we have our first incident in the 2008 Daytona 500. And we are under caution for the first time here today. John Andretti, the 21 car for Wood Brothers, is going to be your race leader. As we get a look at the replay of that incident, appears to be Rudiman, who maybe got a little bit too squirrely up on the outside line. Was taken 3 wide when he really didn't expect to be, as Kane forced him up the road just a little bit. And the 28 ended up getting the wall, and Kane had to duck low to avoid and ended up in his Alliance teammate's door. That's Todd Bodine, the 77 for Jasper. Brad Coleman in the 6. Rookie driver took some impressive evasive action there. Had to go all the way down halfway through the apron. And he found his way around that wreck. I believe Kennington appears to have gotten away mostly scot-free. My goodness, that was tight between him and the 12. I believe he might have brushed the fender. Let's get a look at the onboard of DJ Kennington's 81 car. In this incident. Yeah, just brushed that left front fender. Little bit of contact for the 81 of Kennington. But looking no worse for wear. We're under caution for the first time here tonight, and we're going to see early pit stops here from Daytona. Just lap number 6 for the race leaders. Handful stay out. Oh, contact there as Bobby Labonte gets into Casey Atwood. We see a lot of that at this racetrack and in racetracks in general. It is hard to get off of pit road and into pit road at the same time as other drivers. Saw some contact there between Atwood and the 18. Everybody else appearing to get off of pit road okay. But the 21 of Andretti stays out to have the early lead here tonight. Disaster of a start here for Penske in the Daytona 500, but John Andretti, the 21 car, is your race leader. Casey Mears in the 99 stays out to take second place. It will be intermission for the first time here in the 2008 Daytona 500. It's NASCAR on ESPN, and we will be right back. Back from intermission here at Daytona as we get set to go green. John Andretti in the 21 car is going to be up front early. Couple of Fords leading the way as Casey Mears stays out. He'll be in second. Third place belongs to Kevin Harvick in the 20 with Kurt Busch in fourth. And Robbie Gordon, the 31 car, is going to round out the top 5 incident for the 18 of Labonte on pit road. Of course, made contact with Atwood, the 30. Took some time to get some damage repairs, but of course Labonte with a bit of damage on the right front of his race car thanks to Atwood pulling into his stall in front. We'll see how the 18 fares. One car out of the race already is the second-year driver Brad Keselowski in the 2 has retired from this event. Casey Kane, despite the tow, is still in the race. We'll see how the 77 and the 48 fare after their contact early. Pace car peels off. Lap number 9 on the restart here from Daytona, and the green flag is in the air. And we are back underway once again. Good start for the top 2 as Mears going to shove Andretti off into turn number 1. Kurt Busch is the first to jump out of line, and Mears took a look for the lead on Andretti. Off into 1, but the 21 just about holds him off. Getting up to speed down the backstretch, over 170 miles an hour now. And Mears, with help from Kurt Busch in the 01, is going to jump down to the bottom. And Casey Mears, second-year Cup driver out of Bakersfield, California, takes away the lead. But right away, Kurt Busch is going to jump underneath of him, the 2007 edition winner of this race. Kurt Busch, no stranger to success in the Crown Jewel events, winner of the 2007 500, and he takes the lead here in the 50th edition. See the field stringing out at the back. Couple of cars who appear to have fallen off: Coleman, Kennington, Johnson, as well as Kane and Bodine. That 77 car appearing very off the pace at the moment and could potentially be another retiree here tonight. Battle for the lead continues as Juan Pablo Montoya, winner of his duel, takes away the lead on lap number 10, taking lap 11 that time as he's out into the top spot. But looking like Bodine is going to be forced to retire from this race as well, so it'll be another DNF for the Penske stable. Kennington, Coleman, and Johnson should be fine on minimum speed here. Long way out of the pack at the moment. Bobby Labonte could potentially have some issues as well, though that 18 has damage repairs left to complete. So about 30 cars in the lead pack at the moment. Battle for the lead continues, and now it's the veteran Jeff Burton who takes away the race lead. But here comes Jason Leffler on the bottom in the 00. Lot of pandemonium up front early. But McMurray takes it 3 wide. Very aggressive racing for the lead early in the going. McMurray with his teammate Tony Stewart in the 42 on the bottom, now trying to take away first. Stewart underneath his teammate on the backstretch. Jeff Gordon with him. And now Gordon goes underneath of the 42 on the front stretch here. Still more 3 wide. See Montoya a little out of shape. And again 3 wide for the lead. Here comes Matt Kenseth in the 17 car on the bottom. Almost 4 wide. McMurray forced by the 06. That's Boris Said, back up to the outside lane. Kenseth now into the lead. Shane Meal, the rookie, trying to find his way underneath of him for first. And he does get the nose underneath of the 17. Shane Meal trying to lead a lap here in the Daytona 500. 3 by 3 and then some in the middle of the pack. Robbie Gordon almost forcing the issue with Shane Meal, but he ends up in the middle of 3 wide with J.J. Yaley, the second-year PPC driver, up the inside. Bit more contact. Jeff Burton, and they're going to slide, and they're wrecking again going into turn number 1, and this one is a lot bigger. And it is a huge collection. Montoya on his side. Big wreck in turn number 1. A lot of cars involved in it, and we have seen 2 wrecks now in the opening 20 laps of this race. 4 wide coming back to the line, and they're going to wreck again! Ranger into the wall! Bodine's involved in it. Excuse me, the 06, of course. That is Boris said. 00 Leffler. Hamlin, Gordon, Stewart, the 42. And suddenly the field has fallen apart here in the first 15 laps. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has the early lead. Caution is out. And what has happened in the 2008 Daytona 500? Our first incident appears to have taken place. Jeff Burton in the 8 car got the wall. So we get a look at the replay here. Another car into the fence out of the tri-oval and appears to have cut it just a little too close with Boyer, and that causes Ambrose to go around, and that is a huge collection. Kurt Busch, last year's winner, Montoya on his side. I believe Mears might have just scarcely avoided that wreck, as well as the 83 of Elliott Sadler. Up here, both of them got the wall. Kurt Busch involved in it, Kevin Harvick, Newman, Shepard a big piece. 57 car of Scott Riggs involved in it. Casey Atwood getting a small piece of that accident. And then another wreck coming back to the line with 4 wide, which appears to have been forced by Tony Stewart. Yes, it was. And we get a look at the wreck in turn 3 as they remained 4 wide, and that took even more cars out of this race as Stewart ends up getting into the 06, which forces Sed down into Ranger. Kenseth involved, Gordon, McMurray, Leffler getting a small piece. And only about 8 cars survived the early altercations. Shane Meal stays out. He'll be the leader after early pit stops here in Daytona. Casey Kane will be the lucky dog. And Shane Meal will be the leader. Lap number 13 for Kane, couple of laps down. And Shane Meal, the leader on lap number 16. It's the 2008 Daytona 500 here on NASCAR on ESPN. We'll take it to intermission here from the 50th annual and be right back. Back from intermission here at Daytona, and quite frankly, there are not a lot of cars left in this race after two big wrecks early in the going. Shane Meal in the 47 is going to be the race leader. There are probably about 10, maybe 15 cars who are still clean in this race. Cleaver, Biffle, Yaley, and Earnhardt Jr. are going to be the race leaders here from Daytona. And outside of the top 10, there are not a lot of clean cars left in this race, and I would expect a lot of cars to fail minimum speed on the restart here. Lap number 18, and we've already seen a good 15 cars out of the race, and we'll probably see more. Shane Meal is going to lead the field early in the going. Lap number 18, taking lap number 19. Green flag is in the air, and we are back underway here from the Daytona 500. Couple of rookies, first and second. As we get back up to speed. A lot of cars already off pace at the back of the field. Shane Meal will lead the field out of turn number 2. Biffle trying to go low on the 98, and Yaley will follow the 16 onto the bottom. Fords against Fords down there. Still over 80 laps to go in this race. And you're going to see a lot of cars fail to meet minimum speed, and even more are going to come in and try to get some final repairs. Kenseth, Harvick, Ranger, and Sed are all going to bring it back down pit road a second time. These are all drivers who had to stay on the lead lap under the yellow flag. Burton, Kane, and Montoya out of the pack, though Kane should be meeting minimum speed. Maybe 15 cars still with race-winning pace. Greg Biffle has taken away the race lead. Wimmer attempting to take away the lead there in turn 1. Couldn't quite pull it off. You see Riggs in the 57, who did get a piece of that wreck that brought out the yellow flag. He is in the 3rd position and seems to be no worse for wear in terms of pace. Scott Wimmer in the 5, down to the bottom. And Wimmer with his new team. 2 teammates involved in accidents early. Is going to take away the lead. The only clean, well, one of 2 clean Hendrick cars left. Of course, Denny Hamlin in the 25 still has a clean race car underneath of him, and he's a member of this front-running group. You see Kennington and Johnson, a couple of cars back here who have formed a secondary pack that aren't quite on the same pace level as the current race leaders. And you're going to start to see some retirements from the race. Boris Said, Kenseth, Ranger are all going to be out of this race, as well as Harvick and the 84 of Montoya. Jeff Burton might still be on pace at the moment. 13 and 24 could be as well, so they'll remain in the race for the moment. Around 17 cars currently in the lead draft, a couple of them with extensive damage. Coleman in the 6 has damage to the back of his race car. Leffler and Atwood have gotten pieces of incidents, as has that 83 of Elliott Sadler, but they seem like they might just have enough speed to hang on. But there appear to be about 13 cars still on lead pace. And all that taking place in the first 15 laps of the 50th Daytona 500. Mayfield, the 44 car, has the race lead. Side by side behind the 44, that is Hamlin and Cleaver. As Denny Hamlin making his Cup Series debut here tonight. Casey Mears trying to find his way underneath the 25. Yaley gets taken 3 wide up the middle. Mears getting aggressive again. He looks for the second spot underneath a Hamlin. Robbie Gordon going with him. Mayfield continuing to dominate this field at the moment. About to be a quarter of the way through. Though it feels like it's been an eternity in this one. And of course, a lot of pit stops still to think about. Mayfield in the 44, continuing to lead. Casey Kane in that 12 car is probably the only group or driver of this group that has fallen completely out of any local draft who does meet minimum speed at the moment. And it's a rough break for Kane, of course, because he is currently a couple of laps down at the moment. Jeff Burton is not making minimum speed at the moment, so the 8 car is going to be forced to retire from this race, as is the 13 of Ambrose. Jeff Gordon is still up for debate. And this secondary pack, of course, is looking just fine. Jason Leffler and Brad Coleman have dropped out of the lead draft in 16th and 17th position. Atwood is just barely hanging on in that 30 car, so it's looking like it is a 15 car lead pack here in this Daytona 500. Biffle's got the lead at the moment as Mayfield finally fell out of it, and once again it's Scott Wimmer in the 5. Race didn't really last long enough for us to be able to talk about storylines and how people are faring coming into Speed Weeks. Of course, mentioned Wimmer making the move over to Hendrick Motorsports earlier in the week. Driving that 5 car this weekend and for the remainder of this season, of course, as Hendrick made a little bit of a downsize this year. Just 3 full-time cars, with that 4th part-time entry being piloted by Denny Hamlin in the 25 this year. But Wimmer making the move over to Hendrick. It's one of the biggest opportunities he's had as a driver in his Cup Series career to pilot this 5 car. And Wimmer said, I'm just really lucky to be in the spot that I am. And I want to focus on getting better results than I have for the last couple of years. Of course, Wimmer's had a lot of chances to capture some wins. Previously a driver of the car that is currently directly behind him, that 23, driven by Steckley this year, the Cup rookie. Worth mentioning, a lot of rookies and young drivers in this front group. Casey Mears, a second-year Cup driver. You have J.J. Yaley in his second full-time season. Shane Meal and Todd Cleaver are both rookies who made limited part-time starts in 2007, making their full-time debut this year. Hamlin, of course, making his Cup Series debut here tonight in that 25 car, as I've mentioned a couple times up to this point. Plenty of veterans here as well. Scott Riggs, who has been in the series since 2005. Greg Biffle, a series driver since about 2002. Ricky Hendrick, who's been around since 2002. And almost 4 wide in the mid-pack there. Could have maybe seen another accident, as it was Dale Jr. who was getting forced up by Elliott Sadler in the 83. But they find their way through it. Top 4 single file up front at the moment. Getting real aggressive back there. Saw a lot of movement. Shane Meal moves to 3rd. Past Todd Cleaver in that 98. Of course, his secondary pack currently led by Jimmy Johnson in the 48. A lot of damaged cars, of course, in this pack. DJ Kennington, who's got a little bit of damage on his race car, Bobby Labonte, Jimmy Johnson, all these cars have been involved in incidents tonight. McMurray in the 40 as well. 6-car pack from 18th through 23rd. Slowly catching up, might add 2 more members as Leffler and Coleman are probably about the same pace caliber as that secondary pack at the moment. Wimmer still in the lead. Denny Hamlin trying to take away second place from Shane Neal. And that 47 car is another driver worth mentioning. Of course, Shane Neal, part of the upstart Innovative Motorsports, that 47 team, a long-time GNS entry with the 48. And Shane Neal had been the pilot of that car for quite a long time. Won some races over the course of the last few seasons in GNS and won a lot of races in 2007 in the 48. Didn't bring home the championship, of course, but had a great season. And finally, Shane Neal, one of the more higher touted prospects and one of the longer developed prospects in the series, finally got the tap to drive in the Cup Series, and it was by the very team he had been employed by for the last 5 seasons. Shane Neal getting the chance to operate in the Cup Series with Innovative. And an upstart organization in the Cup Series. This will be their first full-time entry to Cup. And, of course, Shane Neal qualifying into the Daytona 500 through the duels. Making his full-time Cup Series debut this year. And an exciting prospect for this young man as he sits inside the group of the front of the field right now. There's no doubt this young man has a lot of talent, of course. Won a lot of races last year. I believe it was 7 over the course of the truncated Busch season. And makes the move up to the Cup Series. And, of course, that operation's still running a GNS entry. They got James Buescher in that 48 car this year. Going to be an exciting team to watch over the course of this year. A lot of exciting rookies up front right now as Jeremy Mayfield in that 44, who very well might have one of the better cars of this front pack, has found his way back into the race lead. Mayfield in his second season with Petty Enterprises. Previously the 54 entry, now the 44 this year. And for the second straight time, appears to have found himself a little bit of a gap at the front of the field. Left a couple of car lengths between him and second place. It's Denny Hamlin in the 25, who just cleared out on the top with help from his teammate for second place. And he pulls up to the back bumper of Mayfield. And going to throw a little bit of a block on Biffle 16 to move down to the bottom. Fellow Chevrolet Robbie Gordon goes with him. Hamlin making a limited schedule in the 25 for Hendrick Motorsports this year. He's going to be doing a part-time campaign, doing the full season with Hendrick in the Grand National Series down in AT&T. Going to be piloting the 61 car for Hendrick's GNS entry. And a couple of lap cars up the road, Jeff Gordon and Casey Kane. Going to be the real test of if the 24 meets minimum speed here. NASCAR has given him the chance to stay in the race. Well, with the draft help of Kane. That 12 car has cleared minimum speed comfortably, but is 3 laps down after having to take a tow. Got trapped on the banking with flat tires after the first wreck of tonight's race. Robbie Gordon, the 31, takes over the race lead. Robbie Gordon, one of, if I'm not mistaken, 2 drivers in the front of this field who has won a Daytona 500. Was Robbie Gordon in, if I am not mistaken, the 2006 season, and of course Scott Wimmer in the 5 also has a Daytona 500 win to his name coming in 2004. And it was the 2005 Daytona 500 that Robbie Gordon was the winner of. Every other driver, a member of this pack, looking for their first career Daytona 500 win, and plenty of drivers out here looking for their first career Cup Series win as a whole. Kane and Jeff Gordon, the 24 and the 12, lap cars up the road. 31 of Robbie Gordon, with help from behind, is going to get underneath of this 24 car and put him a lap down. Kane going to cover the bottom, force Gordon to go high. Riggs almost took that 12-3 wide. Kane just running his line at the moment. And Gordon is going to end up potentially trapped on this outside lane, and Riggs and Yaley are going to end up going up top. Two teammates who are still members of this front pack, PPC actually, as a matter of fact. Haven't really talked about them so much over the course of this race, but they've still got two clean race cars. Of course, Riggs in the 57 had a touch of damage on his machine, but looks no worse for wear in terms of pace. And of course, Yaley in the 10 has a clean race car underneath of him as well. And the 23 and 30 of Steckley, and Atwood got held up pretty significantly by that 24 of Jeff Gordon. I think Steckley might hold the draft. Atwood was struggling earlier, so this could be an issue for that 30 of Atwood. But the 24 definitely not fast enough to stick with these leaders, and will be forced to retire from this race. Steckley easily remains with the lead pack. Atwood trying his best to stick up with the race leaders. Hopefully that 30 can hang tight. If that 24 took him out of the pack, that'd be a real rough break for that 30. I was just talking about this 57 of Riggs and the PPC entry. A little bit of tape on the front of that race car isn't going to matter as he finds his way out to the lead, and his teammate's going to go with him, and Riggs out to the race lead on lap number 40 here from Daytona. PPC duo down on the bottom. Riggs clears for the lead coming out of turn number 2. But the teammates end up splitting up in turn 3. Yaley's going to go to the bottom of the 57, try and take away the lead. Next lap traffic is about a half a lap in front of the leaders, and it's that far more significant pack who are all most certainly minimum speed matchers. Down the backstretch, Yaley has the lap car Kane trying to go underneath of him down the backstretch here, but 12 stays plenty in line. So JJ Yaley, second-year driver. PPC came so tantalizingly close to winning this race a year or two ago with the 57 of Riggs, and they've got two cars in contention for it. Still a pretty significant count of cars still involved in the mix for the win. Got about 15 of them or so. And Riggs in the 57 just cleared Kane on the outside with help of Robbie Gordon. So it's a 1-2 for PPC. Down the backstretch here out of turn number 2. Atwood in that 30 just barely hanging on to this lead draft at the moment. I think it's just going to be a matter of time until he falls out of it, though. And it's starting to look like he is going to fall out of this draft. But a PPC 1-2 here at Daytona, and Yaley and Riggs working together in harmony at the moment. Kane with that little bit of damage on his race car. Hasn't really been of much help to the race leaders trying to get up to the 57 and the 10. Kind of blocking that bottom lane at the moment. And Shane Meal is going to take him 3 wide. down the backstretch. Can't say I'm entirely surprised by that outcome. But Robbie Gordon is going to clear the 12 and jump down to the bottom. Single file up front, but Robbie Gordon threw a big block on Shane Neal going off into one. Shane tried to slice him over and cut across, but not able to get side by side with him and get stuck behind that 10 of Yaley. So Riggs all by himself now up front, but Wimmer in that 5 is going to force Robbie Gordon up to the outside. That allows Riggs to continue his lead. Would have to imagine we're starting to come close to the first green flag pit window of this race. It's lap number 45 at the moment, went green on around lap 19, I believe it was. And the fuel run just shy to around 40 laps. So would have to imagine maybe about 10 or so laps on fuel left for the race leaders, as well as a couple of cars who might have skipped one of the pit stops. Of course, Shane Neal was, I believe, the only car to stay out on the second round of pit stops, so he might be forced to pit early. Could be bad news for the 47 team if they have to come in alone. But it's going to be important to pit with partners in this race, and not sure, it's pretty tight here if we're going to have 1 or 2 pit cycles remaining in this race. Mayfield in that 44, who has just seemed to always find his way to the front, has once again taken away the lead. 44 is very, very strong here tonight. 83, Elliott Sadler is going to force him to go high, though. But Mayfield actually stayed clear going off into turn number 3, so 44 retains first. And there again, you see just how much strength that 44 has, especially leading. Mayfield has just really gapped the second place cars in a way I don't think we've really seen any of the race leaders do. The only time we did was when the 57 and the 10 were tandeming together. I haven't seen really a single member of this pack jump out in front of the second place cars like that 44 has. Mayfield might have something a little different under the hood of that Subway Dodge. And only a couple of select cars have really been able to run him down and take away the lead when he's out front. But Hamlin, I believe he's already done it once. Might try and do that a second time in this top 2. Tandeming away just a little bit here. And there you see it. Shane Neal just mentioned the fact that that 47 was probably going to have to pit alone. Was not a taker on that pit window on the second yellow flag, and it comes back to bite him as he is going to pit all by himself. Top 5 or so, single file. Biffle going to be the first to jump out of line. Fellow Ford Yaley follows through on the bottom. Field string out just a little bit after the 47 elects to pit. "50 minutes of racing and coming up on 50 laps completed. Just a couple of laps now until we hit the halfway mark in the 2008 Daytona 500. 50th annual event here from Daytona, as Mayfield and Biffle first and second, 44 continuing to comfortably lead this event as they have squabbled for second for the last handful of laps in a row. Love to check up on that, how that 47 is doing, and he is going to, from what it looks like, pick up the lead pack He's lost plenty of time by himself out of the draft. And not too far in front of the 47 is that secondary pack that is getting closer and closer to being lapped themselves. And Wimmer is going to jump to the bottom of Mayfield, but not a great opportune time as the 47 is going to cover the bottom. And that allows Mayfield to carry his momentum on the outside, see if he clears the 47 down the backstretch here, and he will. Wimmer back down to the bottom. And once again, it's a comfortable lead for that 44. And that time by, it was official. Half of the laps down here from Daytona. 50 completed, 50 to go is the count here in the 50th annual Daytona 500. It's a theme of 50s here, as another car with a 5 in the number right up to the back bumper of the 44, and Wimmer going to throw a big block on the 10 of Yaley to get underneath of the 44. And new leader once again, Scott Wimmer out to first. Trying to get his teammate Denny Hamlin underneath of the 10 for second, and he did exactly that. Hendrick 1-2 down the backstretch. But Scott Riggs in the 57 is going to split that up as he jumps in front of the 23 of Steckley to move into the second position. And you can hear it up front, the secondary pack, as Jimmy Johnson is going to be the first of the secondary drivers to come into pit road. Ricky Hendrick in the 02 is going to be forced to come in as well from the very back of the lead pack. So a couple of pitters on lap 52, taking 53. But Riggs doing good work getting past the Hendrick duo. Takes away the lead on the backstretch, but Mayfield is going to jump underneath of him. That 44 just continuing to be potentially the very best car in this lead pack. And now he's got something to say for the lead. Might see a couple more pitters this time. Bobby Labonte in the 18 ducks off from the secondary pack. Greg Biffle in the 16 from the lead pack. Bit of a rough break for Sadler and Earnhardt Jr., who got held up just a little bit, though Sadler appears to have carried the run. And Mayfield in that 44 has once again found his way into the lead. Hamlin, the 25, right behind him in the second position. Riggs, another competitive car, has jumped back to the bottom. Try and take away P2. Seeming like it's the PPC duo and that 44 of Mayfield who definitely have the best entries in the field in this race. And there you see a bunch more pitters as 57, as Ricky Hendrick picks up the pack and actually covers the 44, and Hamlin's going to go around the outside of the 02, who's going to hold everybody up. But there you saw a lot of pitters that time. Riggs, the 98, the 99, the 31, and the 10 all brought it down pit road. So our first major pit window under green flag conditions. And we're definitely going to see a smaller lead pack once this cycle finishes. And Hamlin, as well as Kane, and then the 83 and the 88 all come down pit road. So now just 3 cars remain on the racetrack. Jeremy Mayfield, the dominant 44 entry, is one of them. Wimmer, another car who's led plenty of laps tonight, and Steckley, who has seemed fairly competitive as well in that 23, sits in the third position. More cars leaving pit road. You see the 99 of Mears, the 31 of Robbie Gordon. Shane Meal getting aggressive, splitting that gap there. And in fact, he's going to be forced to duck behind the 31, as I believe the 23, 5, and maybe even the 44 are going to come down pit road. And they will. So the top three are going to finish off the pit cycle here as Mayfield, the 5 of Wimmer, and the 23 of Steckley, his old ride, bring it down pit road on lap number 56. As the final few pitters bring it down, Wimmer and Steckley in, and here comes Mayfield for what should be 2 in fuel. And it will be a fairly short pit stop for that 23 car of Steckley. A much longer pit stop, over 10 seconds for the 5. But Steckley and Mayfield leave pit road side by side. Steckley will yield and drop back to the 5 of Scott Wimmer. See a secondary pack of lapped cars, and the first car that is on the lead lap is going to be the 57 of Riggs. As the leaders in the lap cars begin to mingle, Mayfield rejoins the racetrack. Andretti tried to get past the Ganassi duo there, the 40 and the 01. Didn't have the room for it, but Mayfield gets back on the track. Steckley, Wimmer, and then Riggs. And Hamlin in the 25 will round out this top 5. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 6th. Yaley, Cleaver, Biffle, all still members of this front group at the moment. And this Daytona 500 has gotten mighty complicated with all the lap cars and the lead lap cars now together thanks to the pit window. Mayfield with the draft off of the 2 Ganassi cars, the 21 and the 00. Wimmer, Steckley, and the 57 of Riggs, as well as Hamlin, Jr., Yaley, all right behind the 44, who's got a little bit of a gap to the rest of the lead lap machines. But they should catch up in quite a hurry here. Should be expecting one final pit window in this race, around 10 to go, you would have to imagine. It was about 45 to go to 50 to go when these leaders came in, and the pit window is just about 40 laps, a little bit shorter than that. So there should be a money stop late in this race. But again, things getting complicated, and now Mayfield, with the rest of the lead lap cars right on his back bumper, has first at the moment, and definitely has the strongest car of the bunch. But he's got a lot of lap traffic to contend with now. Now the battle for the lead right back on cue. Denny Hamlin, first career Cup start, out to the lead. Earnhardt Jr., Yaley, Wimmer, the 23 of Steckley, and a few more. Biffle in that 16 car, member of this front group, on the lead lap. Riggs in the 57. Steckley, of course, a member up front, and Cleaver in that 98. And then you got a couple more lead lap cars who are out of the lead pack at the moment. These are drivers who trickled off earlier in the pit window who are not quite up here at the present moment. Mears in the 99, the 02 of Ricky Hendrick, Robbie Gordon, Elliott Sadler, Shane Meal, who are trying their best to try and catch up to this lead group and remain in the fight for the Daytona 500. But it is now Yaley who has taken away the lead. Inside 40 to go. Down the backstretch, Yaley going to be forced to the high side as Wimmer jumps underneath for him. Side by side for the lead again. Steckley in the 23. Down to the race lead. Lap number 63 here from Daytona. And what a better time in the mid portion of this race than to let you listen to some engines and nothing more. It's the race leaders dueling away for first here from the Daytona 500. It's the 50th annual here on We apologize for the technical difficulties here from Daytona. That was your NASCAR Crank It Up, as Greg Biffle in the 16 car is your current race leader. The battle up front continues as we are approaching 30 to go in the 50th edition. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88. What a story it would be if he could find his way to victory lane in this race after a near 6-year winless drought. Had a rough end to his 2007 season. DNF after DNF after such a promising start to that campaign. But just lost the lead, and it is the PPC duo who continue to be formidable in this race, have found their way up here. And a couple more cars have found their way into the mix that are race leaders. You see that 47 of Shane Meal is still in the mix. Elliott Sadler in the 83 has joined the party as well. So it's looking like it might be about a 12-car mix for the race win. Couple more cars that are still within a shot of catching the leaders. Mears is a member of that secondary group. You see Ricky Hendrick in it as well. Those are the only 2 lead lap cars left that could still have an opportunity to catch up. And in fact, they are the only 2 other lead lap cars. There are just 14 cars on the lead lap right now. But Robbie Gordon and Todd Cleaver now side by side for the race lead as we are going to take 30 to go this next time by. Looking like it is going to be about a 10-car battle for the race win. Might be less than that. Again, we will still have, I believe, one more pit window left. Down the backstretch, side by side for the race lead. Jeremy Mayfield has taken away that top spot again, but isn't able to hold it as Hamlin, another competitive car here tonight, is going to find a way to take away that top spot. Could be some more lap traffic later in the show. Andretti and McMurray have fallen out of any local draft. And in fact, they are currently the only 2 cars who are not members of a lead pack, or a pack in general. Mears and Ricky Hendrick have been fighting to lead that secondary pack for a while, but they are slowly losing time to the leaders. Shane Neal in the 47 and Elliott Sadler in the 83 are really the only cars that were able to find their way up into the mix for first. And this pack, at the present moment, aside from Casey Atwood, is all cars on the lead lap. Of course, the 48 and the 01 are also lapped cars, but they haven't retained this lead draft. They have fallen back just a little bit. Might see 2 more cars retire from this race in McMurray and Andretti. And I imagine this is going to be it for them. And they will retire from this race. So that will leave just 22 cars still in the race, and even fewer still on the lead lap. Have had a long green run going since the early yellow flags. No mechanical issues have brought out any yellow flags since. Still a long way to go as we close up on the final quarter of this 2008 Daytona 500. Battle for the lead continuing to rage on. It's Elliott Sadler who has found his way back into the lead pack, who is going to take away the lead from that 10. Yaley's teammate, though, Riggs, is going to jump underneath of Elliott Sadler and force him 3 wide. Battle at the top of the stage continues. Riggs, the 57, another car who's led a lot of laps tonight, has taken away first once more. Been a while since we saw Mayfield in that 44 in P1. I think a lot of these guys have really made some good adjustments to their race cars after that long green run to put themselves in a better spot for the end of this race. Riggs and the 98 of Cleaver tandeming away from the field just a little bit here. .25 to go into the final quarter of the 2008 Daytona 500. Cleaver trying to jump underneath of Riggs for first. Another one of these rookies that's in contention to win this race. Him, Steckley, the 25 of Hamlin. All rookies up here up front, as well as Shane Meal in the 47. And Cleaver to the bottom. Help from the 44 of Mayfield, and he gets there. Side by side for the first position. But Cleaver forced to the top, stuck with his fellow Ford as Mayfield going to try to find his way up front once again. Johnson and Busch have completely fallen out of this lead pack. Mears and Ricky Hendrick are starting to pull away from the rest of the lap cars behind them. It is a long way for that secondary pack to get lapped. I don't imagine they would fall 2 laps down over the rest of the course of this race. Mayfield in the lead. Wimmer, the 5 car, both of the remaining Daytona 500 champions who are in contention to win this race still. Second and third, though they go side by side for that spot as Mayfield continues to sit out front. But Robbie Gordon gets underneath of him on the front stretch. Big run by that 31. Shane Meal pushing him. Robbie Gordon, the 2006 Cup champion, out to the lead. Shane Meal forced high. Couple of young guns for second as Yaley trying to take away that spot. But closing in on the final laps of this race, it's Robbie Gordon out in the race lead.
And leading the going here at Daytona. This is when you want to start to put yourself in position. Of course, the shuffle always going to be a factor, but you want to make sure that you know what car you have underneath you and where you can place it and where you're comfortable being coming down to the late stages of this race. Robbie Gordon out front, but a lot of hungry guys behind him who are itching for their first win.
Absolutely. As we mentioned earlier in this race, we got a lot of drivers in the front pack who are not just looking for their first career Daytona 500 win, but their first career win in general. Not a lot of cars competitive left in this race after the early incidents here tonight, but got to show up front regardless. Still that late pit window that should be looming for the leaders, but Robbie Gordon continuing to sit up front, top 5, single file. See who blinks first going into turn 1 if anybody tries to make a move here. Yaley going to think about it. Could not get underneath of the 31.
And Yaley continuing a strong end to last season with a, right now, runner-up run in the Daytona 500. Look behind him, Dale Earnhardt Jr. Says he throws a big block on rookie Denny Hamlin in his first Cup Series start. Dale Jr., nobody is hungrier in this field for a Daytona 500 win than Dale Earnhardt Jr. The legacy of his father winning this race 20 years after his first try. It was well publicized how long it took him to win this race, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. has yet to win this race himself. So live on the Earnhardt name at the World Center of Racing would mean the absolute world to Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Absolutely, not mention the fact that this year marks 10 years since Earnhardt Sr. went to victory lane at this very racetrack in the Daytona 500. It would be a storybook ending to his near 6-year winless drought if he were to take home the crown here tonight. 20 to go is the count here from Daytona, probably about 10 or so laps from that final pit window. All of this lead pack is lead lap cars, and all of them are hungry. Robbie Gordon, ex-Daytona 500 winner, continuing to lead laps. But Scott Riggs, another competitive car here tonight, who has led plenty of laps tonight as well, right up into that second position, and he's got another Daytona 500 winner, Scott Wimmer, in that 5 right behind him.
We saw in the shootout that 57 of Riggs was really, really quick. Led a bunch of laps in that race. PPC has a very, very strong plate track stable this year, it seems like, but especially in this race. As we see all of these guys, they want to shuffle for second to be that guy to bring the fight to Robbie Gordon, but nobody's actually been able to make the move on Robbie Gordon. So I think if you're these guys, you have to start settling down a little bit and think, how can you shuffle this 31 out?
If there's anybody in this front group that's got a shot to do it, it would be the 44 of Mayfield, who has probably led the most laps tonight. Sits in that second position with Shane Neal, but the 47 is going to be next to jump underneath. Another rookie who's up front in this field, has led a lap or two here and there, and has a competitive car underneath of him. Cleaver behind, 3 rookies in a line behind the 31. But Shane Neal, the fellow Chevrolet, is going to be the one who gets underneath that AT&T Chevrolet up front.
And Shane Neal is no stranger to success in the Busch Series for Innovation Racing, or for Innovative. He had so much inconsistencies last season, and he said really this year was going to be about learning this Cup car and finding momentum. And what a story it would be for Innovative in their first full-time start to go to victory lane in the Daytona 500. But as we say that, Scott Steckley, the Canadian, in the Bill Davis Racing 23, is going to make that move for the race lead.
Yeah, you have to think, of course, with Shane Neal, in that previous pit cycle, we saw that 47 car, who was the only car to stay out under the second yellow flag of this race, had to come in early, and it cost him a lot of time on the final pit cycle. So it's going to be important. A couple of cars who were competitive that slowly trickle off. The draft at the end of this race is going to be what matters most, and it's going to be important who nails that final pit stop. But every one of these guys is racing for the best possible spot going into that pit cycle. Greg Biffle in the 16 has now got the lead, but Elliott Sadler is underneath of him.
Those Red Bull cars have had such fast race cars this weekend. Would not surprise me at all to see Elliott Sadler be the one to come out on top of this thing, but you have to look further behind to see some of the guys most hungry to win this race. As we mentioned, J.J. Yaley, such a strong season last year, would love to finally grab that first win. Again, Dale Earnhardt Jr., his struggles are well publicized. Behind him, first start, debutant Denny Hamlin on that bottom lane, who has been so strong today up at the front of this field. What a story it would be in his first start to go to victory lane for Hendrick Motorsports.
Yaley forced up high, Earnhardt Jr. down low. 15 to go is the count as the laps wind away. Jr. in the 88 is going to find his way to the lead this time, and the Bud Ford is now out front. Hamlin in the 25 behind him as they leave turn 2. Jr. forced up high by him. Side by side up front. Talked about it so many times here today, but you really just can't get past that point that Denny Hamlin, currently making his first career Cup start, is putting the 25 car up front so many times here today. He's been in the top 5 for a lot of this race, and he once again is now into the race lead.
And now going to get shoved up by Riggs, who also has a strong car underneath him. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, where you got to start thinking about nailing your pit stop and getting out exactly where you need to be, because it very well could be a race to the checkered flag from there.
Riggs finds himself in the middle of a sandwich as Wimmer splits him with his teammate down on the bottom. Mayfield, the 44, down back on the inside again, continuing his competitive run down the backstretch. As we're closing in on the final 10 laps of this race, might very well see our first pit stops. I believe Shane Neal might have had the hand out the window the last time by, but couldn't find a lane to the bottom. We'll see if he ends up pitting here. And he is. So Shane Neal is going to be forced to pit all by himself, as we expected. That is a rough break for that 47 car.
Yeah, one that will very likely end his bid to win this race. You got to be in the draft to be able to have a chance at this thing, but as we see him pit, we know that it's looming large in the back of these drivers' minds. You got to get down onto pit road, get out safely as well to make sure that you have a chance to win this race, because this pack very well could be even smaller by the time this finishes.
Absolutely, and you have to think about the fact that these drivers who are going to have the chance to go longer on this cycle are going to have a shorter pit stop at the end, take less fuel, and maybe have a better shot at winning this race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 is going to duck off of pit road all by himself. Another solo pitter. Might have help with the 47 once he gets back on the racetrack. So could not be all doom and gloom for the 47 and the 88. Of course, a couple lap cars, drivers who were already out of this race thanks to damage that they had sustained from the many incidents over the course of this event. See Atwood in that 30, one of those aforementioned drivers getting back on the racetrack behind the lead pack, who has gotten strung out thanks to the 88 coming into pit road. Robbie Gordon, who has led a lot of laps late in this thing, finds himself in first. And looking like we got more with hands out the window. Elliott Sadler is going to come in that time. No other takers from the lead pack. Saw Kennington, one of the lap cars, on pit road there.
It really is just a game of chicken right now to see who blinks first. Everybody wants to run as long as possible, but also have some help behind them to make sure that they're going to have a way to potentially win this race if you have a shorter pit stop. But those three guys that just pitted all alone could be in trouble here. I think if you're going to win this race, you got to have some help behind you.
Mayfield and Robbie Gordon side by side for the lead. It'll be 10 to go at the line this time for whoever decides to stay out. Looking like we might not see any pitters this time either. No, we will. It'll be the 23 of Steckley this next time. Wimmer with a big run to the inside. 10 to go is the count here from the 50th annual Daytona 500.
And He's going to take it 3 wide for the lead.
3 wide down to the bottom is the 10. J.J. Yaley trying to take the advantageous spot up front. Mayfield is the one that gets hung up to dry on the outside. Hamlin trying to get underneath of that 10 car down the back stretch. Can he get there? He does. See who comes in this time from the pack up front.
Biffle got down low there. Looks like he might be coming in.
And he will as well, so another solo pitter. Lap car ahead, Shane Meal, all by himself at the moment.
See if Hamlin's able to get back down in front of Cleaver. He will not. 3 wide again for the race lead.
Down out of turn 2 and down the back stretch. You have to imagine it would be a perfect time to pit now with the lap car of Shane Meal up the road. Could potentially hold the leaders up, and I'm sure he would like to give him a better shot at winning this race. Riggs and Mayfield in line behind Cleaver, who's now got the lead as they head through turns 3 and 4. Looking like Riggs might be set to pit here, as well as Robbie Gordon, and Cleaver does as well. The 2 Hendrick cars and Mayfield are going to be the last cars to stay out, taking 8 to go. 4 cars in, and it's the first time we see multiple of the leaders in at the same time.
And we'll see what this holds for these 4, and if they're able to group back together at pit exit, that will be absolutely crucial. And the fact that they'll have to work together. But those 2 Hendrick cars, and I believe it was another car as well, I think it was Mayfield.
That it was.
See, they're going to have a little bit shorter of a pit stop. So we'll see if those guys, with the shorter fuel that they will have to take, are potentially able to mitigate having 1 less car.
Looking like they're going to stay out another time. So Wimmer, Hamlin, and the 44 of Mayfield continuing on the racetrack. They pick up the lap car of Shane Meal, who might have cost him a little bit of time. You're going to see these leaders get back on the track. Cleaver and Riggs not too far apart. Yaley is just barely hanging on back there. Biffle is going to be a member as well. Robbie Gordon didn't have a great pit stop in that 31. And a couple more cars further out of it. Steckley, Sadler, Earnhardt Jr. Those guys are hoping for a late race yellow to put them back within a shot of winning this. It would have to be by mechanical issue. These guys are staying clean up front.
Yeah, but you have to wonder for Hamlin, Mayfield, and Wimmer. And Mayfield's going to come in all on his lonesome. The Hendrick cars will stay out. And my goodness, that might have just hurt those guys. I would have came in all three of them.
Yeah, that could be a big deal as the 25 and 5, the two teammates are going to stick together. They've been competitive all night long, and they're not running terrible lap times at the moment, but the question becomes how bunched up are the rest of the race leaders who are still on the racetrack at the moment, who have rejoined the racetrack, I should say. Riggs and Cleaver are bunched up, but they're the only two who are currently together up towards the front of the field. Junior, Steckley, and then Sadler are also a member of a 3-car group, but they're further out of the race lead. Could be 4 cars if the 16 and the 10 can catch up to the top 2. They are in the draft of the top 2 at the moment. But right now, Wimmer and Hamlin are headed to pit road on lap number 95, taking 5 to go in the Daytona 500.
It will be a significantly shorter pit stop for these guys, but you have to wonder how far are they going to be apart when they come out of pit road, and can they get linked up fast enough to mitigate the time lost?
And there you see it was about a second and a quarter shorter for the 25 and the 5. Hamlin had a way better pit stop than the 5 of Wimmer, who went nowhere out of pit road. Hamlin very well might be the race leader.
And we'll see where they come out. Remember, that banking is flat, or the banking, some 30-some degrees. That apron is completely flat. It is a significant speed difference down there. As these guys enter turn 1, Cleaver could potentially look at the net race lead, but Hamlin looks to be well ahead.
Traffic ahead for Cleaver with 5 laps to go as he heads around the outside of Kennington. So does the 16 and the 57. Mayfield involved in this group up front as well as J.J. Yaley. Both the PPC cars still within a shot. They're going to go around the outside of the 81. Wimmer is a long way behind the 25 of Hamlin, who's taking 4 to go. He's by himself. The question is, do the rest of the race leaders have enough time to catch him? They're going to be forced to pick up the 5.
And they got held up big time by the 5 of Wimmer, which was exactly what Hamlin wanted to see, his teammate holding up these guys. It is going to push Wimmer eventually into this battle. I don't think that's 4 seconds worth of a gap for Hamlin, but definitely a good sign for him, exactly what he wanted to see late in this race.
Should be about an 8 to 9 mile an hour difference between the leaders of this pack, and now the race leader, Denny Hamlin, in his first career Cup Series start, is going to be 3 laps away from potentially winning the Daytona 500, and it's his teammate who's in second. But they are closing in on Hamlin in a hurry.
We'll see if Wimmer is willing to stick behind, or if he's going to try to make that move for the win. They're going to catch Hamlin on this lap. It'll be crucial for Denny Hamlin to try to hold up those guys and keep them at bay.
Wimmer maybe going to try to go around the outside of his teammate. Yaley on the bottom. Where does Hamlin go? Down the backstretch. He's going to get caught in the middle. Almost Yaley on the inside. Couldn't find the gap. Wimmer, the ex-Daytona 500 winner, to the lead.
Wimmer out front, but Hamlin crucially hangs on to second on the inside line with help from Yaley behind him. The 2 PPC cars lined up on the bottom with Mayfield splitting them, but it's the 2 Hendrick cars up front.
Teammates with the lead. It'll be 2 laps to go in the Daytona 500. Jimmy Johnson potentially could get in the way here at the end. Traffic ahead for Wimmer, it's his teammate. Hamlin right behind him. Couple of teammates coming up out of turn 2 with a lap and a half to go. They are most certainly going to catch that 48 before this race is over. Hamlin to the bottom, blocks the 10 of Yaley, trying to find the inside. Johnson is likely going to cover the bottom here, and he will. Wimmer goes to the outside.
Wimmer is going to clear Johnson. which puts a car in between the top two.
Last lap in the Daytona 500 for Scott Wimmer. Denny Hamlin in the second position. Does he have enough time to catch up to his teammate? Yaley takes him side by side for second.
And that might be exactly what Scott Wimmer wanted to see. That's a big gap. We'll see if Yaley can close it in enough time. It might be all Scott Wimmer out front.
Down the backstretch for the final time in the 50th Daytona 500. Yaley with a run on Wimmer. Does he get to the bottom? Wimmer covers him off. It's going to be the battle for the Daytona 500 out of turn 4 this time. Does Yaley have enough time to make the move out of turn 4? Here they come to the checkered flag. 5 and 10. Scott Wimmer is going to win his second career Daytona 500. Perfectly executed by Hendrick here tonight.
And Scott Wimmer, you have to imagine the emotions going through his mind right now. A two-time Daytona 500 winner, axed by his old team, but breathed in new life at Rick Hendrick's team in the 50th Daytona 500. A marquee victory belongs to Scott Wimmer. And what a job by the 5 team and by Hendrick Motorsports to execute that pit stop brilliantly. And it was just enough.
And Scott Wimmer, first race with his new team, and it's his second career Daytona 500 win here tonight. What a way to win it. Hendrick pulls it off perfectly at the end there with the 25 and the 5. And it'll be Wimmer who holds on just over Yaley. It's heartbreak for PPC in the Daytona 500 again. And the 5-car wins it.
Oh, so close. But they have to be encouraged at the speed that they showed tonight. Both of those cars absolutely could have won this race. And for Yaley, he will have to wait a little longer. But I can't imagine that wait will last for much longer. But for Scott Wimmer, what a tale of two seasons makes. And what was seen as a lackluster season in 2007, 2008 starts at a brand new team, and he grabs victory here at the 50th annual Daytona 500.
It's the Plate Meister who takes home the 50th annual Daytona 500. Scott Wimmer, your winner here in the 2008 showing of the biggest race of this season. Next week, we continue the season proper. It'll be Rockingham for the Subway 400 for round number 2 of this 2008 season. But on behalf of Nate joining me in the booth here tonight, I've been your host, Caden Reif. It's been a pleasure to have you along as always, and we will see you next time, and have yourself a good one.